The head biologist admitted to the fact that there has been links to increased incidences of Parkinson's disease and breast cancer. That was the head biologist that was at our meeting. Mr. John Sweat, who's the head for that Lower Colorado program, can also answer your questions on that. Like I said, we have 3,400 pages of documentation that backs this up. It isn't something we're just making up off the top of our head. And until that meeting down in Yuma, we were unaware that they had already introduced rotenone into our water system. They offered that at the meeting. We didn't know about it. They offered that up and said, yeah, we've already done this.
Now, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Mike, because I know you have a job to do here, but on page 20, the slide on how does work. Sounds to me like this is almost equivalent of having your diaphragm paralyzed. It may not be suffocating, but if it keeps the oxygen out of the cellular level,
right,
pretty dang scary to me.
For fish, yes. That is the target species that this works on.
I understand we have a workshop, we've been through one, and the reasons why we supported this and we voted for this at that time. I still think it's a good reason to do that. So.
Yep. Can I ask a question for Bob? Mike, on the reason this was done, if I remember right, had to do with the environmentalist fees.
Right. This all started back in 1992 when under the Endangered Species Act, all 4 native fish on the river were classified as endangered. With that hanging over us, every project, whether it's transferring water, whether it's taking your apportionment, whether it's coming in through the dam, everything would have to go through an analysis to verify, and 10 to 1 you would have take. And they would stop us from taking water. They would stop Hoover Dam from generating power if we didn't come up with a plan to conserve the species and try to prevent it from going into jeopardy. That's the whole thing. Most MSCPs have a goal to prevent from going to jeopardy, and you can't show that it's jeopardy that species will go extinct. Luckily, ours is we will lead toward the recovery of the fish, and that way we get a no jeopardy finding. If you stop this whole program potentially because of how we want to restore an area or something else, then this whole thing falls apart. Then we'll be back meeting under the Endangered Species Act on everything we do.
It would affect the way the farmers farm here in the Imperial Valley.
That's right. Right now we have razorback suckers coming into our system. Just because of this project alone, this conservation effort, we have take for every one of those fish that comes in. If we didn't have that, and they find one of those fish dead in our reservoirs or in our lake, in our canals, we will be cited for take, and we will be fined, and you'll stop the system.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason we are participating in this MSCP.
The reason why we have 3 new board members, it's important to bring them up to speed as to why we did what we did. And the sooner you can get Bill Swan and have this workshop, I think, for us and for the public.
Yeah, and I think if I remember right, the cost of the IID of the $517,000 a year is relatively, I don't want to use the word cheap.
Yes, if you look at the Everglades, and if you look at other MSCP programs for 50 years, it's 10 times that amount you would have to pay to get this kind of coverage and this kind of take permit.
Can I make one more comment, please? I would like to make it perfectly clear that we're not against this MSCP program. We've come up with a good alternative measure to help implement this program, one that we feel would have the least amount of impact on the communities, to include all of the lower western, southwestern area down here. I think that this can be pulled off on a piecemeal basis. We've worked with you guys really closely. And I'll tell you how much we are concerned with the conservation of fish. My club is the only club in the United States that has a federally sanctioned catch and release boat as of last year. Other clubs have since gotten that sanctionization from federal Fish and Game, but we were the first ones to have that. And that's the measures and the degree that we went to protect our fish. You're talking about people who've been fishing these backwaters for 3 generations and longer. And so naturally we're protective of it. Because of the environmental impact, if you take that away, of course we're going to be concerned about it. Arbitrary spraying, which has happened upriver, and maybe not, you may not be aware of it, but your head biologist was, and he admitted to it. We're concerned about that. We just want everything to be kept above board. We want to be notified if they're spraying water. We want to be notified as to what backwaters that you're thinking about taking. We'd like to work earnestly with you to kind of identify some alternate backwaters. Maybe you can take one away and give us one back by opening one up. We've already identified waters that way. But I did want to make it clear to you that we're in support of the MSCP program. It's going to go ahead. The federal government's already sanctioned it. We know it has to be implemented, and we'll work earnestly with you to see that that happens in a safe and effective manner.
Well, sir, if you leave your name and address and phone number, we'll make sure that you're notified of the forthcoming workshop we'll be having.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item number 5, general matters. Water first.
Mayor Hanks, Carl Villalon, Water Department. Got a couple of items I do want to give you status of. One is the water card process that we've been involved in the last few months. We had about 3,400 ag water packets mailed out to both owners and tenants. Each of these have multiple fields associated to each packet. We had about 3,500 plant account packets mailed out prior to that we've been processing. So far we've received approximately a little over 1,000 water pipe packets that we're processing. And on the ag side, we are, for instance, on a day-to-day basis, fielding about 20 calls per day. A couple of our guys have been following up with these calls on a daily basis as they can. There's a special phone number that went out with the water packets identifying this line to call in case they had any concerns. And there's lots of individual concerns based on their own field, their own leases, their own special conditions. It's a fairly tedious process. Also, as we've gone along in the last couple of weeks, division and administration staff have started processing packets from different individuals and entities. So that process is going, and we're learning as we go. We also had 4 public workshops the last couple of weeks. Overall, there was about 250 attendees. First week, we had about 80 attendees per session. Second week, we had about, I would say, 30, 40 per session, a little lighter. Definitely, there were lots of questions, very spirited. They stuck to the issues. Had lots of questions. These are being and have been cataloged. In the second session, we had some responses in writing to them based on the previous 2 sessions the first week. Second session generated more questions. Clearly, when you get more into this issue, more things come up. We'll continue to work with our water users to make sure that they receive water for protection. This has been the direction from the board itself and from management. Concurrently, we will be working with board and management to make sure that the questions that have been brought up, the issues that have been brought up, are addressed in the regs, and either through changing the regs, updating the regs, or making sure that we have policy that addresses issues. The equitable distribution program comes along through the year.